Approaching the top of descent point, the airplane may need to fly a prescribed vertical flight path defined by RNP limits, just as it has been maintaining its programmed lateral flight path within RNP limits. The pilot has several sources of information available to monitor the calculated vertical path and ensure the airplane remains within vertical RNP constraints during the descent. As the airplane reaches the top of descent point, the ANP bars and VNAV deviation pointer display on the V Nav Deviation Scale. A magenta V Nav path deviation band appears on the lower right side of the navigation display, adjacent to a fixed vertical deviation scale. The VNAV Deviation Scale uses the same principles as the LNAV Deviation Scale, except the VNAV Deviation Scale shows RNP-ANP information in the vertical plane instead of the lateral plane. Outer indices represent the RNP boundary distance. From the center index, which represents the airplane's vertical position. The ANP bars originate from the outer indices and converge towards the center as the ANP value increases towards the RNP value. The magenta VNAV deviation pointer represents the FMC calculated vertical path position. The VNAV deviation scale operates like an ILS glide slope. As the airplane flies further above or below the programmed descent path, the deviation indicator moves accordingly on the scale to indicate the deviation. In this example, the airplane in a VNAV path descent has deviated above the FMC calculated descent path. If the airplane continues to move further above the FMC calculated descent path, the deviation pointer will move past the ANP bar boundary. If the pointer stays past the boundary for more than 10 continuous seconds, the ANP bar turns amber to alert the flight crew to a possible RNP boundary violation. When the pointer reaches the deflection limit, it becomes an unfilled symbol. The magenta VNAV path deviation band appears on the navigation display next to the vertical deviation scale. This band indicates acceptable deviation from the VNAV path during an FMC descent. The deviation band consists of a diamond-shaped pointer with equal length band extensions above and below it. The center index of the vertical deviation scale represents the airplane's vertical position. The pointer of the VNAV path deviation band represents the FMC calculated VNAV path position. The band extensions represent the vertical RNP above and below the path. The RNP and ANP digital annunciations to the left of the fixed vertical deviation scale represent the current vertical RNP and ANP of the airplane's navigation system. The RNP number also indicates the band extension length in feet above or below the VNAV pointer. The VNAV path deviation band moves against the fixed vertical deviation scale in response to changes in the airplane's vertical position relative to the defined VNAV descent path. If the airplane flies above the path, the pointer moves down against the deviation scale. As the airplane descends below the path, the pointer moves up against the deviation scale. And when the airplane is on the path, the pointer aligns with the center index on the deviation scale. The length of the band segments depends on the vertical RNP currently in effect. If vertical RNP decreases, so does the length of the vertical deviation band. The vertical deviation scale is fixed. The extensions from the center index represent plus or minus 400 feet. The VNAV path deviation band pointer can move up to 30 feet beyond the scale outer marks. Anytime the airplane is more than 30 feet away from the VNAV path, a digital readout of the vertical deviation displays immediately above the scale for deviations below the path. Or immediately below the scale for airplane deviations greater than 30 feet above the path. When the airplane is on the path, the VNAV path deviation band pointer aligns with the center index of the vertical deviation scale on the navigation display. At the same time, the VNAV deviation pointer aligns with the center index of the VNAV deviation scale display on the primary flight display. With the new flight deck displays, the flight crew can see at a glance the current navigation performance of their airplane and can more easily determine if they can fly and navigate route structures and approaches defined by RNP requirements.